All right. Welcome back to this special edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Mullen, Evan Byrne. Evan, how are we doing?
We are doing well. It's good to be back.
It feels great to be back. Last time we spoke, the Bucks had just dropped a 6-game series to the Indiana Pacers. No Giannis, no Lillard. It was just basically like a foregone conclusion that this was probably not going to be the year that the Bucks were going to win a championship, which is not surprising given the circumstances of, firing their coach middle of the season, getting Doc Rivers, and having to kind of figure everything out on the fly. Giannis getting hurt in a non-contact injury, and Lillard getting hurt during the Pacers series. It was just not surprising. There was just way too many factors that were working against us that, was the reason why Milwaukee didn't win. I kind of wish they actually did win because seeing how corny the Boston Celtics are.
I know.
Jason Tatum, we did it! We did it! Oh my God, we did it! What they gonna say now? He stole like lines from Kanye. He stole lines from Kevin Garnett. He threw in a Kobe photo. I mean, Jesus, I hope Boston doesn't turn into a dynasty because I'm going to be honest.
Clip farming.
If I have to watch Jason Tatum do that again, I'm not going to like that. I'm not going to like it, okay? It's the corniest team alive. And honestly, if there weren't so many... And again, nothing to take away from Boston. They were clearly the best team in the league this year. However, I mean, they did get, which this goes with every playoffs, is like they did get a few breaks along the way. They didn't have to go up against Philly. They went up against a Jimmy Butler-less Miami Heat. They, Halliburton got hurt during the Pacers series. So I do think that the star players getting hurt, I do think that kind of aided in them winning the entire thing. I don't think Dallas also wasn't a good matchup for Boston because it's just Luka and Kyrie, and then everybody else just do what you do. So, I mean, in terms of easy finals runs, that one was pretty easy.
Yeah, that bothered me. But it is what it is. They're eventually going to get one. And there it is. But yeah, the Jason Tatum thing, getting clowned immediately after winning was hilarious.
I mean, well, it was so obvious. It was just he stole lines from Steph Curry.
We did it.
He tried to be like, Kevin Garnett, where Kevin Garnett did it. That felt so forced when he did that.
We did it.
What? I guess we'll never know. Threw in a line from Kanye. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, that was so obviously he stole like so many of those lines. People were joking that he was probably practicing in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like the night before the thing started. So, all right, let's get right into it. So, the NBA draft was last week. The Bucks had 2 selections. A.J. Johnson, who spent last season with Australia, in Australia, excuse me. And then we had Tyler Smith, who another, similar to Marjan Beauchamp, another G League Ignite player. So I guess, Evan, give me your quick thoughts on what you thought of the Bucks draft picks.
Well, if the Bucks aren't notoriously good for drafting good first-round draft picks. Even like Giannis was a push, obviously became a superstar, but I feel like all they try to do is just try to pick what they think is going to be some next Giannis player and hope that every single one of them works out. But I don't know, this A.J. Johnson pick was atrocious. I feel like, again, I've always loved to be proved wrong in a positive way. So I don't even think he's going to play. But looking up this guy, I had no idea who he was. Looked him up, his stats don't really show a lot. 2.9 points, 0.7 assists, 1.3 rebounds, 37% from the field. I think he shot like 54 from the free throw, and he's like 160 pounds. I don't know. I thought it was kind of a stupid pick. They don't need another guard, a young guard like this. We have 2 other ones already. I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of just like a waste, and he'll just be on the herd the whole year. That's how I see the first one. Tyler Smith, I felt was like a little bit of a better pick. Again, also 19, G League Ignite guy. I mean, I watched some of his film. He seems like an athletic guy. You know, he averaged almost 14 points, 5 rebounds. So one of those guys who I'm assuming might see a little bit more playing time than AJ Johnson. But again, I just felt like we should have maybe, I don't know. It was so hard to tell. This guy is 6'11", so it kind of helps. But that AJ Johnson pick, I'm still scratching my head over, and the entire internet went feral for watching the Bucks pick this guy, and like they picked him so confidently too. I don't know how I feel about it. Never heard of him. Coming from Australia League, just look up the stats, really shows. So again, love to be proved wrong, but I think that was a waste of a first round pick. You might as well not even had one.
And I agree with you, and everybody deservedly had an appropriate reaction to what the draft pick was, where it just feels like it's not that Bucks don't hit on draft picks. It's just that we don't see them develop.
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue, okay? The last good draft pick Milwaukee had was Dante DiVincenzo.
Yeah.
And even before he could develop,
correct,
we traded him. Okay, now look. I'm still scratching my head on why they got rid of Dante DiVincenzo in the first place because we traded him for who? Serge Ibaka? And like it was like a 3-team trade. So like I'm still trying to great. I don't think that was a Grayson Allen trade.
No, that was not the Grayson Allen trade.
But yeah, I'm still scratching my head. Like, and even throw in like, like Sam Merrill. Sam Merrill like was on our bench for a year, won a championship, and then we traded him the next year. So, and Sam Merrill could have been a difference-making player. That's the problem, is we've prioritized signing veterans over developing young talent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the issue I have with the Bucks, is that we've drafted, like even go back to 2015, 2016. We drafted Norman Powell, and we immediately traded him to the Raptors. So what I'm trying to understand is John Horst is like, well, they could learn from the veterans, and we still got a good veteran. I mean, did he see our bench last year?
Yeah, our washed veterans. I want to learn from Pat Connaughton. Like what?
like the problem is we had so many. We have younger guys who should come in and contribute. We should already be at the stage where the Warriors were a couple years ago, where it's like, why don't we just draft younger players who could immediately make a difference? Okay, I would have liked to see them draft Terrence Shannon Jr., if I'm being completely honest here, because a dynamic guard who is a bulldog in the paint. Drives. He's not afraid. He's fearless. I think the only reason why we didn't draft him is because everything surrounding, the rape allegations in Kansas. And, he was getting in these games, he was getting shouted no means no at him. Okay? So, and again, I don't even know if it was a matter of if he did or not, which obviously it was proved he didn't. I think it was just everything that was surrounding that, where it's like there was still the baggage there, right? So I think that's why we didn't go with Terrence Shannon Jr., because I think he would have been better than the options we have now. That kind of got as soon as AJ Johnson was drafted, okay, they immediately opened the door to draft Bronny James, because, okay, really, we're just drafting a guy who averaged 2 points a game in the Australian League. I think he barely played, but they liked his intangibles. Bronny James averaged 5 points a game in the Pac-12 for the Lakers. So that already opened the door to be like, well, if this guy could get in the league, then and like LeBron did say at one point that there's a lot of sorry ass whats in the NBA, which he's right about. He's right about. There are players who just because you're in the NBA, it feels like anybody could get drafted. Okay, on a smaller scale, I would have liked to see them get Filipkowski from Duke.
Yep. Yeah, he was one of the. He didn't go to the second round then.
I could see why they didn't, because here's the thing: scouts have dumb ways of taking somebody off their draft board. So with Filipkowski, it was, he's dating he has a Mormon girlfriend who
That's an absurd backstory.
he has a Mormon girlfriend, and apparently Kyle Filipkowski hasn't talked to his family in years because, she's like a few years older than him, and she helped Kyle Filipkowski cut off from his family.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
It's insane.
I don't know if that would be enough of a reason to take me off their draft board, but again, scouts find dumb ways to be like, scouts will talk themselves out of a pick more so than talk themselves into a pick. The funny part is that he got drafted by Utah, the Mormon state. Not out of it. So I guess if anybody were to go anywhere, if there would be like any perfect scenario for someone to get drafted, it would be Kyle Filipkowski going to the Jazz.
Yeah, I kind of saw. I know, they were, again, center wise. I felt like getting a center in the early second round kind of helped, but yeah, I'm just looking at the board again. I don't really follow college basketball as much, except for Marquette and UW Milwaukee. But, kind of looking at the boards, you look at all the stats. I kind of I play around, I look up guys as we go. But, yeah, just kind of seeing this pick just kind of was a little head scratcher, but it is what it is. I saw some videos of him playing. I don't know if it was 3-on-3, 5-on-5 against Marjan, but he was taking Marjan right to the basket, scoring on him a lot. So, I don't know. Maybe he could be a sneaky little athlete, but I don't know. Again, assuming he's probably not even going to play, because the Bucks don't play their young guys when they should be. It could be different with Doc Rivers in year 2 with the full season, kind of going for him ahead. But I don't know. I'm assuming he's not going to play at all. He's going to be the 14th or 15th guy. So we'll see. But again, hey, maybe this was the next Giannis, and we just have no idea. I just want to cope and hope.
Yeah, and this is going to be a huge thing. This is going to be big years for Andre Jackson Jr. and Marjan Beauchamp. They have to take another step in the development. Okay, I think last year Doc Rivers was kind of, this is kind of where John Horst said he's at his best. And then he eventually shortens the rotations. It's going to be a big year for Marjan and Andre Jackson Jr. We thought last year was a huge year for Marjan.
Yep.
Where we thought he was gonna play for sure. You're right. We talked about him as a potential starter, but now it's he now has to really prove himself.
Yeah.
We're in year three now for Beauchamp. He has to really prove himself this year. Ajax, for sure. I do think that he kind of got jobbed last year because he's a young player. Doc Rivers doesn't play young talent, but it's he is a difference maker. Okay, if he can relax on the fouls and not foul as much,
correct,
then that's gonna go a long way. The other thing too, we still have to fill out our roster because it's unlikely Thanasis is gonna play next year due to an Achilles tear, which everybody with half a brain is like, well, how did Thanasis tear his Achilles if he doesn't play? It's a fair question. It is a fair question to ask. How did Thanasis tear his Achilles when he doesn't even play? Do I expect him to be on the Bucks for next season? Yes. It's like asking if the sky's blue. He's gonna be on the team next year. He's probably not gonna play, which again, fine with, but
doesn't change much.
No, he's gonna play. He's gonna play no matter what. So kind of getting your thoughts on the other draft pick, Tyler Smith. I agree with you on that from that perspective of I like that pick better than I like the AJ Johnson pick. He felt like it feels like he's smooth, okay, lefty, and I think if he might pan out better than Johnson, just because it just felt like he's more NBA ready, like more tools.
Totally agree. I always like watching the Bucks second round picks over their first round picks, weirdly enough, just because I feel like they know how to find like sneaky guys in the second round. Even though it was like an earlier second round pick, it's still second round over first rounds. But yeah, looking the guy up again, he's 19 right now, but come the season, he'll be 20 years old. He's 6'11", 224, I think it was. So he's a big body guy, and I feel like development wise, I kind of hope that he could be one of those guys who can just kind of attack the paint more. Now, he averaged 5 rebounds. I don't know how that can kind of relate to the NBA. But even with like the Bucks, like having Giannis as your primary rebounder, again, we're not looking for, I feel like at this point, our centers aren't going to be our primary rebounders. With having Giannis, sometimes even Lillard or Chris. But we're just going to need someone who can get more than 3 or 4 than Brook every other game. And just being able to kind of go back and transition defense. I feel like that's really the main thing that they need from a center is they need a young guy who can get back on defense in a faster pace than Brook Lopez, which I feel like at this point is not a hard thing to do, just kind of based off of age-wise and kind of speed going back on transition. But I'm hoping this could potentially be the guy. Now, he's not necessarily a center. He's more of a forward. So I'll kind of see like where they kind of play him at, if he's going to be a power forward or if he's going to play center. But yeah, we'll kind of see. But I have more of a high potential on him than I do with AJ Johnson, especially him being already in the Ignite for this past season. So we'll kind of see how it plays out. Now, do I think he's going to play a lot? Probably not. But I feel like he'll have a little more of an upside going into the season than AJ Johnson will, based off of position-wise, who might be traded, who might not be, just because we already have AJ Green, Andre Jackson. I don't know what they're going to do with Pat, but guard-wise, I feel like they're a little more heavier than athletic forwards.
We just need bigger bodies. I think that's the problem I think Milwaukee keeps running into, is it felt like last year that Brook Lopez and it was Bobby Portis. Mm-hmm. And basically once Brook Lopez went off the floor, offensive rebounds abound for the other team.
Yes.
That's what it looked like. We just allowed too many offensive rebounds, especially when Giannis is out on the floor. Like, we need more guys to be able to crash the boards, grab rebounds. And, and reporters' interest in the Bucks getting Daniel Tice, I'd be in favor of that. We just need bigger bodies. Okay, I'm not saying not everybody has to be 7 foot, but we just need tall guys who can, grab boards. Like that, how it's important to grab. It's like rebounding is so important. It's such a lost art, but it's like it helps set everything up to get like a guy like Brook Lopez, who, by the way, he can't be everywhere at once. Okay, and honestly, I'm even questioning on Brook Lopez if it affects the spacing with him being out there. Or if, other teams could easily take advantage of the fact that he's not the fastest guy. But Tyler Smith, yeah, I'm sure he's playing. I just don't know if you learn how to play solid team fundamental basketball being in that league. And I think that's why they're shutting it down, because I kind of feel as though players who were in the G League Ignite are like kind of developing slowly versus if you just spent time in the G League, right? So, I mean, the only player I can name who like really panned out from the G League Ignite was Jalen Green from the Rockets. But other than that, it's just like Scoot Henderson. He was solid last year, but it's a learning curve of playing in college versus the G League Ignite. It feels like college players are a lot more NBA ready versus players from the G League Ignite. Even go to international basketball. I just feel like those players, like Luka, like some players in international who played internationally, like were just more NBA ready versus players who played G League Ignite, where it feels like you can be the main guy on offense. Okay, you're gonna get your shots up. you know, I don't know. It just feels like a lot of the G League igniters just aren't NBA ready.
Just these fast, athletic dudes who just attack the paint and just kind of. There, a lot of them are high flyers. I feel like not necessarily like fundamental wise, like you say in college, but it's always interesting just to kind of see like who is really going to pan out NBA wise based off of. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I've never watched just like a G League Ignite game, but watching highlights, I just feel like it's just guys just taking the lane and dunking it and just kind of panning out like super freaky athletic guys like Marjan, Scoot Henderson, like you said, Jalen Green, again, another high flyer. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't hate it. Don't love it, but don't hate it. I feel like based off of who they had at that time was probably the better pick, and I trust their second round picks as well. But yeah, we'll just kind of see. Again, probably not going to find a lot of time this year playing, but I'm assuming he'll get some stints like Chris Livingston did later in the season. So we'll kind of see again based off of how their other offseason transactions go. But don't hate it, don't love it. But I think overall this draft's probably like a good old C-. I feel like not good, not horrible, but I think the second round pick really saved their first round.
Excuse me. Forgot my mic was muted. Yeah, 100%. Okay, and even the guy from the Athletic, Sam Beachy, said that it was like Bucks were like the losers of the night just because of, we just didn't understand because I think we overvalued AJ Johnson. Like I thought he should have been more round, not a first round draft pick, but I guess it is what it is. So moving on, this has kind of been the scuttlebutt over the past couple of weeks. There's potential interest in Milwaukee looking to move on from Brook Lopez.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on that, and should they move on from Brook Lopez?
I genuinely hate to say it, but I feel like it's so hard, but I feel like it's time, and I hate to say that. Last year was iffy. Honestly, I can't hate on Brook Lopez. He was a key piece into winning the championship, but he's only getting older, and I really just feel like it's the transition defense that is like the main outlier just because of how many points that just gives right back up. It's a good Bucks can go on a good 7-8-0 run, and then all of a sudden it's tied right back up because of their transition defense. But I'm just seeing it, though. I do see a lot of the teams who are interested are teams that are primarily younger, like the Rockets and the Spurs, I know are two of the bigger ones. So I kind of see it as potentially maybe kind of giving him up for some younger guys or some picks too. Some of the teams just kind of grab something back that you can kind of build from in the future. But I just feel like in the long run, it's probably not the best option to keep Brook Lopez, again, just because of age, transition defense. He's getting older, can't really rebound, can't move as fast. So I feel like it might be the time. He has a bigger salary as well after just signing this past offseason going into last season. While the Rockets, I know, were one of the teams who are also looking to sign him. But, I see some potential. Again, I can't always agree with mock trades just because I feel like it's always heavy for one team. But this one that's been circulating, I've seen people comment like there's no way this team does it, but it's Bucks give up Brook Lopez and the 2031 first round pick for Jalen Duran from the Pistons. I just see like that's a good pick in the Bucks' favor, but it's like, are the Pistons going to give up Jalen Duran like that? But it's also the Pistons, so we never know. But that's just such like a key piece of their future that I feel like is worth noting. But that's one that I've just kind of seen circulating. But I just kind of see him going to the Rockets or the Spurs. Maybe kind of Spurs kind of get him to kind of mentor Wembanyama a little bit, or go to the Rockets, work with Sengun. But I don't know. It's weird, but I feel like it's time. He's 36 years old. We can't rely on, I feel like, a 36-year-old center to go in a championship or bust season.
Yeah, and look, and this kind of might be, John Horst deserves a lion's share of the blame here because I think he just held on to this core for way too long. Championship with Giannis, Lopez, and Middleton, but I just feel as though, and he tried to get, and he got us Damian Lillard, which I'll always be indebted to him for, but by the same token, it's like, other guys like hasn't been the same player. Okay, like he has shown flashes, but he's just not the same player as he used to be.
Yep.
Brook Lopez, he's not. Brook Lopez is like a year older. Giannis is. I don't say Giannis is breaking down, but like he is like, eventually, like being a high contact player that does kind of, the wear and tear does wear on you just a little bit. And now couple that with the fact he's playing for Team Greece this year, in FIBA, and for the Olympics, that's like extra basketball that I would prefer him not to play in. But again, Giannis just loves basketball, so like I just I'm praying in every game that like he doesn't suffer an injury because this is one of those things where it could just derail a season, and you've seen players get hurt in competitions like this. So it would be horrific if again, I just hope that he doesn't get hurt in these. I think Bucks fans just wait with bated breath hoping like nothing happens. And look, but I think this goes along the lines of Milwaukee just needs to clear up money. Okay?
Yes, I 100% agree. That's why they're not making huge signings, because we're at like the cap. And people are freaking out. They're like, why are we letting all these high-end free agents go to other teams? Like, because we have no money.
Yeah, it's like, as much as I would love to get Paul George in Milwaukee, we just can't afford him.
Correct.
Like, honestly, why do you think, and again, and going back to my question, I would be in favor of trading Brook Lopez. I think the hesitation is, are we going to get someone that's better? Like a little younger, maybe like Jalen Duran. I'd be in favor of that. I just don't know if Detroit would, because that's a young guy. It's a cornerstone piece of their franchise. So I don't know if they would. But I do think Milwaukee, if they trade Brook Lopez, I think they got to get younger, and they got to get an agile big, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I see this one being the Spurs trade. We would just trade Brook Lopez to the Spurs and receive a 2030 first round and Zach Collins. Like, it's not horrible, but you're getting like, again, a mid-tier player. He's 26-ish, injury prone, so you never know who you're going to get, but I feel like you're just going to have to try to go for younger guys.
Yeah, and it's like, and look, Brook's not a good Brook needs Giannis on the floor to make him look good. Okay, that's just the simple crux of it. Is, Giannis covers a lot of ground. Brook cannot be everywhere at once, and Doc also has to decide what our defensive strategy is going to be. Are we still going to be playing drop? Like, what's our defensive strategy going to be for next year? Because I would be very curious to see that.
Yeah, they just need to play more man-to-man-ish. But yeah, the drop was just not working anymore for Brook Lopez. Giving too much space for some of these guys. Kind of just hoping, I guess, they missed their shot. Like their mid-tier contest, I just feel like this was not working. It works sometimes. And then when they see it work for like 2 or 3 games, then they just keep doing it and just kind of proves that it's not actually working. But yeah, just kind of looking to kind of see some trades. Again, it's a lot of just Brook Lopez for another younger mid-tier player. Nothing too crazy. But yeah, I think it's time we part ways with Splash Mountain, unfortunately, but it's got to happen. It should have happened already, I feel like. But just with where they're going and kind of hopes for winning it all, I don't think Brook Lopez will be a key piece into trying to play or trying to win a championship based off of age, speed, lack of defense, lack of transition. So I think it's sadly time, unfortunately. I again can't hate on Brook Lopez. Don't have anything against him. He helped us win, but I just think age-wise, I feel like it's time to start young again on their centers. Not like super young, like a 20-year-old or 21, but get someone 10 years younger than him. You're still 25, 26-year-old player.
Yep. So kind of moving on to free agency. You know, the Bucks did make a few smaller moves.
Yep.
So far in free agency, the team has signed Taurean Prince, Stanley Umade, and Delon Wright. So go through the first one. I'm going to be honest. I've never heard of Stanley Umade before.
Nope.
I don't even hang on together. Let's look up the see what we got on Stanley Umade. I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen because I have not heard of him. Okay, and I don't know if this is a trade that's gonna help us in the long. If this is a signing that's gonna help us in the long run. You know, because that was I'm pretty sure this is the first guy we signed. Stanley Umade. Okay, apparently he last played for the Detroit Pistons. Apparently he last played for the Pistons.
Mm-hmm. Played 24 games, 13 minutes, 5 points, shot 44 from the field. 45.
All right, so he signed a 2-way contract.
Yep.
So, hang on, let me just...
Born in 99, so yeah, just like 24, 25?
He's my age. He's my age. He just turned 25. Let's see. Played in Arkansas, so... I mean, I guess what are your thoughts on Stanley Umade?
Yeah, assuming he's just going to be a end of the lineup kind of guy, probably bounce back with the Herd and the Bucks, but I don't see him essentially playing at all. Compared to who the other two guys that they've signed so far, I don't see this guy playing. If he only played 24 games with the Pistons last year, based on how they played, there's no way he's just gonna somehow get minutes on the Bucks. In all due respect to Stanley.
Yeah, I don't see it either. This is just probably one of those minor moves that, you know, we needed a 2-way guy and
fill up a roster spot.
Yeah, because I'm assuming Ty Washington's not going to be here next year because I'm pretty sure he's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we still got Chris Livingston there. John Horst is really high on Chris Livingston.
Yeah, I am too. I like him. I feel like he has a good upside.
Okay. So, moving on to the next guy that we signed, Delon Wright, who we've known him since the Toronto days.
Mm-hmm.
More or less a good defender. I don't know how much he's gonna add on the offensive end, but I feel as though he could be like a good backup to Damian Lillard.
Yeah, no, he's definitely like another Pat Beverly. Super good perimeter defender. I'm assuming good transition. I just know him for. I just texted my brother like, who is like I couldn't put once I like looked him up and like saw his face, I knew who it was. But yeah, good perimeter defender, which I feel like is what they're going to need. I'm assuming they'll bring back Pat Bev because I know, like, based off what he's been saying that he wants to return. But if he were to not return, I feel like this is a good replacement for him. And they got him for the veteran minimum. I believe it was like $3.3 million. So again, a super cheap contract for this guy. Just kind of reading through some of the posts, I know a lot of the Heat fans were kind of mad that they got rid of this guy because they said he's been helpful with the playoffs and just kind of late in the season, just good defender to have. He played 20 minutes in 14 games for the Heat and then was also on the Wizards. So it was kind of that later in the season trade deadline. Only averaged 5 points, but shot 40% from the field. Again, not the guy that you're signing to hope averages 15 to 20 points. He's just going to be here to defend like a Javon Carter, Pat Beverly kind of player. So I'm personally fine with this one. I feel like it'll be a good kind of help to not only play out there for like kind of that like intense defense, but he's strictly here to defend, which is someone that they need. Just kind of overall to have. I don't know how old he is, assuming he's probably a little older. But he is, 32. So again, another early 30s guy. But hey, if he can defend, I'm fine with that. And I feel like that's what they're going to need at this point. Depending on if they let anyone go or no one kind of re-signs with them. But yep, just here to defend. And that's all they're really asking for out of him. And I'm assuming that's just what he's been doing for his career.
Yeah, he's a good depth piece. He's one of those guys who, it may look like he's on a lot of teams, but that's because he provides a role that every team needs, which is solid, hard-nosed defense. Okay, he's not gonna he's only averaged 7 points for his career, so he's not gonna be a scorer. He won't add anything on the offensive end, but he'll add a little more than Patrick Beverley, I would say, on offense, in terms of, just being able to create, having a solid jump shot. I just think that this is a good Patrick Beverley replacement. Not to say that Patrick Beverley won't be back with Milwaukee, because I'm not 100% sure of that. But if it is, I do think this is a slight upgrade over Patrick Beverley.
Yeah, I just know him for his tenacity. Good defender. I just feel like the Bucks kind of know who to get for these small guards who are strictly here for defense. Obviously, we had the Javon Carter run, Pat Bev last year, and now Delon Wright. So I feel like they just kind of know who these chippy, very cheap contract guys are. So again, you look up his Wikipedia, he's been on a team almost every year since he's been drafted. But I'm totally okay with this one. I know a lot of the people or a lot of the fans that he's played for kind of upset that they just kind of let him go like that for nothing. So I feel like we're getting someone who's going to help us defensively overall. So assuming he'll play some decent minutes as one of the backup guards, but yeah, no, that should be a good bench piece to kind of have for them throughout the season.
So moving on to the next guy, Taurean Prince, who
I like this signing. I don't know how some people have been kind of backlashing it. Again, we can't afford Paul George. We can't afford all these guys. But to get Taurean Prince, I feel like is kind of a pretty good signing. I don't know. I felt like people were hating on it, but I weirdly did not hate it at all. He's a 42% shooter, averages 10 points for his career. Again, we're not signing guys who are here to score 20, 25 points because that's just not what we need at the moment when you have Lillard and you have Giannis, you have Middleton who's going to hopefully get 15-ish points. We got guys to do that, but I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of his career, but just kind of seeing his name always pop around. I'm not sure what he's like defensively. But hey, if we can get a guy who can average 8 to 10 points, hit a couple threes, and just kind of hope that this is a fill-in for someone who is leaving. I'm assuming Malik Beasley's not coming back. There's no way this guy's re-signing. So is this a Beasley kind of replacement? Again, not the best three-point shooter, but isn't too bad anywhere else on the floor for playing 20, 25 minutes a game. So I really like this signing. It's a kind of a sleeper pick, especially with some of the guys that he'll be joining with the Bucks. So it's again last played for the Lakers. Hasn't had the most playoff success, but has playoff experience, which I feel like is always helpful to get. Signing these guys who've played in the playoffs, played against some of the teams who will go on to win. Played for the Hawks, was a big name with Al Horford, Jeff Teague, those guys in the mid 2000s or 2010s. But yeah, it's played with LeBron 2 times. One of the times with the Lakers. So I feel like we're getting a guy who's here to play, and I'm thoroughly okay with it. I don't know. I just saw so much hate on this one. I was just kind of confused as to why people just were not excited about Taurean Prince. I feel like he's not some bum. He's not some washed up player. So I feel like we're getting a pretty little decent signing for someone to come off the bench.
Yeah, I hope I honestly do hope that's a Malik Beasley replacement. But to be fair to Malik Beasley, the role that we were asking him to play was so unrealistic.
Correct.
Where it was, oh my God, this guy's a Drew Holiday replacement. A what? No, he's not. Like, nobody could replace Drew Holiday. Okay, I keep trying to tell people that, but then everybody's like, oh my God, look at this. It averaged, and then it goes from like, oh, we're gonna miss Drew Holiday to like now it's just starts shitting on him. Where
Correct.
It's like, oh my God, Malik Beasley, he has 5 steals. He has more than Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday's not gonna get cooked by Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. Like, or Malik Beasley's not gonna get cooked by Jimmy Butler in the play. Like, it just turns into like a trade, and then it's just like, let's just dump on this guy after he leaves, which I don't understand why we do that. It's weird behavior. But look, Malik Beasley is so inconsistent. Okay, he is a maddening player. Sometimes he'll hit 5 threes, and sometimes he can't hit from the ocean standing on the beach. Okay, he is such a frustrating player to watch. So there'll be times where he just doesn't even hit an open shot. Okay, he just bricks open shots. That's where he gets frustrating. But I mean, look, Taurean Prince, I do think is an upgrade over him because I think this is a guy who, again, I don't think he's gonna add much on offense. I don't know if he's like an offensively driven player. Maybe he could give you 10 to 15 on some nights. But I just think that, this is another good defender. This is a guy who could guard the other team's best wing player. And I think they need to surround themselves with guys like that. Because, again, like we've said before, we weren't going to get those guys like a Paul George, like a guy who could average 20. These are going to be veteran minimum deals of guys looking to stick around in the league. All right? It's unfortunate because I do think we could use like one more star, but we just don't have them. There's no money in the budget for it. Like it sucks. Okay, I would. I don't know if you can. Like, we're trying to fill out a roster here, and we're talking about like. And here's the other thing too. We knew we didn't have any money when we're talking about Chris Dunn as the top target in free agency. That's how you knew we didn't have any money to spend. When you're talking about Chris Dunn or Josh Okogie as players who the team should target at free agency, that's where we're scraping pennies by the dollar here, Evan.
You might as well just run it back.
He tried that. John Horst tried that 2 years ago. After we won the championship, after we got knocked out by Boston, he was like, you know what? We're just going to re-sign every single player who was on the team, basically. That's basically what John Horst did was, oh, this guy's expected to leave, and then all of a sudden he gets re-signed. Like Serge Ibaka. Like when Serge Ibaka barely played after he got traded, I was like, Serge Ibaka's probably going to leave, and all of a sudden we re-sign him. I'm like, why would you re-sign him? He's just going to sit on the bench again. We tried running it back once. That did not work. So we tried to rerun it back.
And it got worse.
Yes. That just goes to show you need to get younger in the league, okay? Because, while you guys might think that these guys are in their prime, they're actually getting a little older. Giannis is kind of going a little out of his prime a little bit. I don't even know how old he is, but he's almost 12 years in the league now. So
that's insane.
Yes. So he might be a little out of his prime. So, you just got to think about it from that perspective. Yeah, let's see what else I had on my list.
I don't know if you saw, but I saw one of the rumors of Gary Trent Jr.
Oh, I did see that.
I know a lot of it is there's mutual interest for both of them. Obviously, he'll cost a little more. I was just kind of reading through some tweets. But it looks like Damian Lillard is trying to kind of push him to sign here or try to find some middle ground to sign him because again, he's a pretty higher player. Kind of deserves the money he would get. But he's, I think, like 25. He's one of those guys who I thought was older than he actually is. So again, a younger guard who's a Bucks killer. He's on the list. He's deserved to get the Bucks killer listing. But I feel like if there's some interest that they could somehow pull that off, I genuinely feel like he could be a starter. Or that first or second guy right off the bench in the second rotation. But if Damian Lillard's trying to urge hit not only Gary Trent Jr. but the Bucks to kind of make a signing, and I don't know like what he would want to do for like pay wise, but I feel like that could be a huge addition if they could pull that off, especially with his background with or playing career with Damian Lillard as well. To kind of like if Lillard wants this guy, I feel like there has to be as much pushing to go get him to really show like, again, with all the I'm not happy here in Milwaukee, but like if we can listen to Lillard and like the Bucks know that they're listening to him and we go out and get these guys, I don't know. I feel like it could be a positive going into the season to kind of have a familiar teammate with Damian Lillard. Now, obviously Pat Connaughton was too, but Pat Connaughton compared to Gary Trent Jr., there is a huge difference in skill level. But yeah, no, I kind of saw that. That's been like kind of on the low, but I know there's mutual interest through both of them. So that'll be kind of on the radar for the future, just to kind of see like what actually goes down. I don't think it'll happen, but there's a chance. I just don't want to get too psyched about it.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I would love if they got Gary Trent Jr. because he was kind of a Bucks killer when he was with the Raptors. Okay? He was a Bucks killer. When him and Fred VanVleet were there, both of them just destroyed Milwaukee.
Yep, that's game over.
Yeah, it's game over. Those two, it felt like Gary Trent Jr. was always due to hit 8 threes against Milwaukee. So that was frustrating to watch. So I would love it if they could afford the money to get Gary Trent Jr. because I'm going to be honest, we need some upgrades.
Correct.
Need some upgrades. Kind of moving on a little bit. What do you think Milwaukee still needs to do in free agency?
Free agency is tricky just based off of money wise. I feel like they're not going to be able to do too much more. I feel like now it's just going to have to be they're going to have to make a trade. Whether it's I don't even know if they can do a sign and trade at this point, just kind of depending on who it's going to be. But I feel like free agency, they're probably going to get some other potential two-way guy, and that's pretty much it. I just kind of feel like they're going to have to make a trade. I feel like their free agency is done unless they get Gary Trent Jr. But I feel like there'll probably be like one more very small, low-level signing, preferably a two-way. But I don't see as much left in the free agency signings. Unfortunately, it's not a huge free agency right now. Now that all these guys are gone, that we weren't even going to have a somewhat of a chance to even get this player. But yeah, I kind of feel like it's on the decline already with Taurean Prince. Maybe one more signing, but I don't see too much happening.
Yeah, I don't either. You know, if they can add one more shooter, fine. But, you know, I just don't know who's still out there that would make a significant impact for this team. So, you know, like I said, I would just like if they could add just one more shooter, that would be great. But, you know, it's kind of slim pickings this year with some of the dominoes being kind of off the board a little bit. So, what does Milwaukee need to do to get back to title contention?
I feel like they need to completely revamp the bench. Having Pat Connaughton and Jay Crowder and some of these guys who are just not having any impact on the team, I feel like is someone that needs to just kind of be moved. I think the Jay Crowder trade is such like a fever dream because it was like, we need Jay Crowder, get him here, and then he's here, and then he just absolutely sucks. He had a really good outing to start the season, but got injured for too long and then just kind of came back and shit the bed. I feel like they just got to dump some of these guys and just get some younger guys, whether that's through signing. So again, kind of like making, or actually maybe just playing our young guys. who have somewhat showed potential, like Andre Jackson Jr., Chris Livingston. Now, obviously, playing Chris Livingston for like 25 minutes a game is probably not the best idea, but he's got some good upside, I feel like. But just kind of giving the guys that we've drafted a chance and kind of building around some of these guys with other veterans, I feel like could be beneficial. Obviously, you just got Taurean Prince, you got Delon Wright, you got some of these veteran status players who've been in the league, played with some of the highest level competitors on their teams. I feel like it's just kind of helpful just to give Andre Jackson Jr., give Marjan, even give Chris Livingston a chance, just to kind of like see what they can do. Again, the Bucks aren't just going to somehow get the 12 seed and be a play-in team, or they're not going to drop all the way down to 10 or 11. It's not going to happen. I just feel like they're going to have to either show or give minutes to these young guys. I almost said rookies, not rookies essentially. But Marjan's in his third year, like you said, going into his third year. And I've like literally haven't seen any upside to him. I haven't seen any like there's potential right there, because they don't play him. If they're not going to play him, just trade him. There is no point in having all these guys sit on our bench to do nothing and play 7 guys. It's not worth it. It's not worth Marjan's time. It's not worth the Bucks' time and their money as well. If you don't want Marjan and you know you're not going to use him, just trade him. Literally just trade him, which is unfortunate because I really like Marjan. I feel like he has some potential to him, but they have to do something with their bench, whether that's trade some of their older guys or just move them to the end and start playing their younger guys, because their bench is just not working. It worked really well in 2021 when they won because of how good their bench was with some of these guys in their primes, or just enough to kind of get through. But yeah, now the Bucks went from having one of the best benches in the league to having like one of the bottom 5 benches in the league in the span of 2-3 seasons. So something just has to happen with their bench in order to be more productive, because I can't keep doing the starters make 80% of 80% of their points is from their starters, and then Bobby's the only bench player contributing, while Pat's 1 for 4 shooting and Jay Crowder's 0 for 3 with 2 free. It's like it's not doing anything, and it's not going to help them win at all if they have some of these guys just wasting their time on the bench.
Yeah, you are right about that, and it's still one of those things where how many of these bench guys are we going to hang on to, right? Mm-hmm. So how long are we going to hang on to Pat Connaughton? How long are we going to hang on to throw a name out there, BP, right? Like yep. They're still productive players, but I just don't know, like we should keep revamping every year our bench, until because the problem with the last 2 or 3 years, it just feels like we just haven't had any difference makers off the bench. We've been extremely top heavy, mm-hmm. and our starters, it feels like have done the bulk of the lion's share of the work, the lion's share of the production, and the offense. It just when guys like Giannis and Middleton and Lillard and Lopez are off the floor, it's like, who are we going to get to contribute? Okay, who's going to, can we get a scorer off the bench? Can we get a bench that, where guys are consistently scoring every single night? All right, and, Boston at least had that, where we were kind of joking with Boston. It's like, who are half these guys? But those guys were contributors. Mm-hmm. These guys don't have to be all-star players, but at least get some contributors, guys who will make a difference. And it feels like Milwaukee just hasn't had that for the past 2 years, despite having like a really good record in the regular season.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate just because I know some of these guys in their past, Jay Crowder had a really good run for the Celtics. You can kind of say on the Cavs, but like he's always been the guy that people can rely on. Pat Connaughton had a good run in the 2021 playoffs. He was playing in the finals. He had some crucial baskets late in the finals run. So like some of these guys, they had their chances and they proved their chances, but now they're slowly starting to kind of crumble, and we're still running with them. And I feel like it's just not going to help them later on, especially going to another season where they're another year older. And we're again relying on these guys to be some of the primary scorers for our team off the bench, while we have these
19 to 22, 23-year-olds anxiously waiting to play, have somewhat proven that they're able to play, but then they just don't end up playing. So I feel like it's just it has to be time to dump some of these guys and their contracts. Again, they're not like some absurd contracts where they're holding back so much of their money, but Pat Connaughton, I just clicked out of the his salary, but some of these guys are making money that's like, let's just give it to someone else and just kind of hope that, I don't know, maybe we can find someone else cheaper who can somewhat provide. But yeah, it looks like Pat's 2023-24 salary was $9 million. That's absurd for Pat Connaughton to be making $9 million to score 2 to 4 points in 15, 20 minutes of play. But yeah, I can't do it anymore. If they're going to want to contend, they're going to have to figure out something with their bench. Their starters are fine. You can do something with Chris Middleton. I don't know. Chris Middleton's making a shit ton of money as well. That's not up to me. But yeah, something's got to happen with their bench. Pat Connaughton, Jay Crowder, those guys can all go at any second. And I feel like a lot of it will just end up being trades. I know a lot of people are saying trade Brooke Lopez and Pat Connaughton for like a deal, just kind of like trying to get these guys and their salaries out of here and hoping to get some younger guys. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm assuming Pat Connaughton will still be on the team this coming season, so I can't be too mad. But yeah, they just got to figure out who is going to get minutes over someone else, and some of these guys that aren't getting minutes are the ones who should be getting minutes, like AJ Green.
Yep. So, speaking of kind of staying on the topic of the younger guys, what Buck are you expected to take a massive leap next year?
I really hope it's AJ Green. Again, coming from last season, being a huge AJ Green stan, I feel like based off of all like the rookie guys, or just like, I'm not even gonna say rookie guys, just like the young guys on the team with Andre Jackson Jr., Marjon, Chris Livingston, AJ Green. I feel like AJ has the most upside and has the chance to make a huge leap going from, getting some, I won't say significant minutes, but he had some stints in some games where like he was one of their primary scorers, or he was making a huge impact off the bench. And I feel like if he could just get some time to be out there and develop his shot, I feel like he could have a huge jump going to next season, especially having a very not solid, but like a pretty decent rookie year. I just feel like there's a chance for him to one-up himself and just kind of be more consistent with his three-point shooting, because he's really just here to be a spot-up three-point shooter. He had a little defense showing later in the season once Doc Rivers came here. But I feel like he's going to have a huge jump, and I feel like he can be one of those guys who can get significant minutes off the bench. I don't see him as a starter at all. Never really will see him as a starter, especially for the Bucks, maybe on another team. But I just see him as one of those guys who's here to find him in the corner. And if he can make 2 to 4 3-pointers a game, that's perfect. That's all you need him for. He's the guy to be there when some play doesn't work, or he's just your guy that you can rely on to hit an open shot in the wing, hit an open shot in the corner. But I don't know. I'm really pushing for him to make a huge jump.
I'm going to go Andre Jackson Jr. And here's why. Because we saw what he could do last year. Okay, in terms of playing good defense, in terms of being able to provide that positional versatility that Milwaukee so desperately needs. All right, young guy. Again, not going to add much on the offensive end, which a lot of these guys we're going to be saying that about. But, I just think he's a young player. I think he has the tools. All right, I think he's only going to get better. I just think that, the more he plays, like the more he's going to develop. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I don't understand, where it's like, well, these, such and such to play young players. I'm like, why? How else they can't develop by sitting on the bench? Okay, you could only learn so many things from like so many veteran players for so long before you like actually need to go out and like do it. And that's what we need to do is we need guys like Andre Jackson Jr. to develop into something. Okay, we can't rely on veterans this year like we did last year. Okay, we got to start playing some of these younger guys. Beauchamp, Jackson Jr., you threw in A.J. Green, right? Even throwing Chris Livingston. Like, why not? Just give him some minutes. Like, if it's 5 or 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. Just give them guys, like, their feet wet in an NBA game. Like, we can't afford to be like, we as a play young player. Okay, but, like, these young players could be better than the veterans we have right now. Like, they could be a lot more productive than the veterans we have right now. So I just don't understand this whole thing of, like, Wade doesn't play young players. Why not? How else are they going to develop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's frustrating just seeing these guys who we know have the chance to be great sit there and watch. I mean, even with Andre Jackson Jr., I feel like him and AJ Green had the most playing time out of all the young guys and rookies last year. And like the one thing that Adrian Griffin I felt like did well was playing Andre Jackson Jr. And then all of a sudden Doc Rivers comes and he's out of the lineup or out of the rotation, which sucks because he had, you're kind of building the confidence. You're kind of slowly like finding the player that you are, and then it's just kind of ripped away from you, and then someone else is getting your minutes. Pat Connaughton. But I don't know. It's kind of frustrating just kind of seeing these guys because it's at the point where it's like, why draft or why have draft picks if they just sit there for 2-3 seasons and then not do anything, and then you just trade them. But yeah, no, we're rooting for Andre Jackson Jr., rooting for AJ Green next year, even Marjan. But I feel like a lot of these guys, they just need to play. You don't need to play them for 20 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes for some of these guys. Just let them play and see what happens. If it doesn't work out, now you know. But you're never going to know if you don't try it. And I feel like a lot of these guys do deserve it, especially with Chris Livingston, kind of seeing him just get thrown into some random games last year. Like, something's not working, Chris, go in and and see what happens. And, it works sometimes. And we're hoping that something can have that spark, or someone can have that spark and just kind of watch something click and kind of make its way into the regular rotation. But that's going to have to be the case just because we can't keep relying on these older vets, assuming this is the year that they have a breakout year and score 8 points off the bench instead of 4. It's useless at this point. And if we're trying to win the championship, we're not going to win a championship with Pat Connaughton getting consistent 20 minutes a game. I keep saying Pat Connaughton, but that's just the one that I keep thinking of the most just because of how many minutes he's taking away from some of these guys. I don't hate Pat Connaughton. I have strong assumptions and accusations against him for his lack of production and the amount of minutes he's getting.
Yeah, you make it seem like he's like, has something. He's like hiding something against the Bucks.
I literally can't think of anyone else's name because I know Beasley's going to be gone. Pat Beverly was productive in his minutes. Jay Crowder and Pat Connaughton, I just feel like are the two guys that they just need to just shoo out of Milwaukee.
Haven't you got anything else?
I don't really see them doing too much with the signs like we said earlier. I'm assuming there'll maybe one more signing, but I think we're really going to be on the lookout for any potential trades. Do I think Brook Lopez is going to be traded? I feel like I'm like 60-40 kind of leaning towards him being traded, but I'm not counting it out like he might be here another year. But yeah, I feel like it's just going to be another boring off-season type for the Bucks transaction, just because there's not really too much that they can do or will do. So we're really just kind of waiting for the summer league to start with some of these guys coming back.
Yep. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Quick note, forgot to bring this up. Darvin Ham is back, of course, as the lead assistant. So that's huge news. Glad to see Darvin Ham being back after the Lakers unceremoniously got rid of him. But so glad that Darvin Ham is back in Milwaukee as the lead assistant. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast, and we'll see you guys in the future.